Welcome everybody to this brief tutorial going over kind of the basics of Adobe Illustrator. So once you have Adobe Illustrator on your desktop or on your laptop, if you can't find it, you might need to go to your Finder, go to your Applications, and it should be up in the top. And then you would click Adobe Illustrator to open it, okay? Adobe Illustrator is already on my control panel. So I'm just going to click Adobe Illustrator to get into it. So the first thing that I see when I access Illustrator is my home page. With the home page, this is our landing page for everything. This is where you'd be able to find all of your files. And over here, if I can direct your attention, we've got New File, we've got Open. This is where you would open a file on your desktop or on a jump drive. We're at home, and that's why it's highlighted. What I really want to direct your attention to is Learn. If we click Learn, we can watch these tutorials. They say they're hands-on, they could be, but really if you just watch the various videos, you'll understand it. You don't have to download the file and follow along. Just watch them. I recommend taking a tour of the app, explore shapes, jump into color, and all of these are very short. So 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 4 minutes. Then we've got these longer ones, Getting to Know Illustrator, which is 17 minutes. And they're not really 17 minutes if we click into it. It's 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. So you're not really committing to like a 17-minute long video. I recommend in your free time when you have a moment, checking out, if you have 5 minutes of free time, take a tour of Illustrator.
To help you become more familiar with Adobe Illustrator,
Okay, and that's one way that you can learn more advanced techniques with Illustrator. That said, I am always happy to teach more of Illustrator. I love Illustrator. So let's get back to home. So that's Learn. This is Learn. I totally encourage you checking out, let's see, the ones that are really great. Get to Know Illustrator, create shapes, change color, add text, organize content, create drawing. Pretty much all of these, work with artboards, are really, really excellent tutorials that will teach you how to work with Illustrator. But I'm always happy to help teach you how to work in Illustrator too. So just reach out. If we want to set up a Zoom meeting, I'm always here for that. So if you really, really, really want to learn Illustrator and these tutorials just are not doing it, reach out to me. Let's schedule a time that works with our schedules, and I'm happy to tutor you in Illustrator. So that being said, that's Learn. Then we have our files we have shared with you and deleted. So let's go back up to Home. This is where we'll always start. And for this particular assignment, we're just going to start with New File. And right here we've got our recents. We've got saved, we've got mobile, we've got web, we've got print, we've got film and video, art and illustration, and then free templates. These are great places to start, especially if you have a client and you just need to make something really quick. Having a template to start with is always a really excellent strategy. That way, you're not starting with a blank board thinking, oh goodness, what do I compose? You already have something to work with. And there's templates with all of these options, with print, with web, with mobile. One thing I also want to show you, when I click web, we're in an RGB color mode. If I click mobile, it's the same. We're in an RGB color mode, and we've got these various templates like the iPhone X, iPhone 876, iPhone 876, and the iPad Pro. And everything's an RGB color. That means red, green, and blue. So that is the color code for everything that is on a screen that is using light to produce color. If I click print, we've got a CMYK color. So that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. That is the ink cartridges in our printers. And so that's why our color mode is a CMYK color mode. That's what our printers would use. But I really encourage you to explore these templates because they're really, really fun starting points. So for me, I'm just going to go up to recent. I'm going to type in practice. And really, the next couple weeks, just play around in Illustrator. If you get frustrated, turn off Illustrator, come back to Illustrator. The more that you work in Illustrator, the easier it becomes. So the next couple weeks, when you get done with your homework assignments, really explore the app. It's super fun, and you're creating vectors. And vectors allow you to make the same art the size of billboards and the same art the size of chapstick. So it can scale up and scale down without the image degrading. So I'm just going to say practice. We're in a CMYK color mode. I like to keep things at inches. If I see things as pixels or points or picas, I always just go to inches because I know what an inch looks like and it's easier for my brain to understand. Now that I have everything going on, I'm going to click create. And right off the bat, what we're looking at looks very, very similar to Adobe Photoshop. And that's great. It helps us understand Illustrator in a quicker way because it already is formatted like something that we already know. So first thing I want to show you is we have our properties panel. We've got our layers panel. And every layer is made up of all these objects. So you'll see in just a minute. We're not going to worry about libraries. But the properties panel and the layers panel are two very important panels. We also have the toolbar over here. And then we have file. This is how you would save. This is how you would place an image from your desktop. This is how you'd edit. You've got your object. You've got type, select. Very similar to Photoshop. Effect. This is fun. We've got the artistic effects. So this is something fun to play with. We've got our view, but what I really want to show you is window. If you don't see anything present, most likely it's hidden in the window. Okay, so if I can't find image trace, I can find it here. If I can't find history, I can find it here. If I can't find the stroke, I can find it here. Or symbols, I can find it here. So if you can't find something, go to window, just like in Photoshop. And if you really are having trouble, reach out to me. Again, we'll schedule a time and I'm happy to tutor you. Spend like 15, 30 minutes just really learning Illustrator. Also, help is super helpful. So let's say I want to do image trace. I just type in image trace and then I'm able to find it. Okay. I could do the same thing for crop. Okay. So if you know the keyword, this is really helpful. Another super helpful thing that I even find myself doing sometimes is I'll say, let's try something easy. Help X. Or no, how do I image trace in Adobe Illustrator? Right here, usually you'll have a AI generated answer, But what I really like to work on is I'll go to Adobe Help X. If I go to Adobe Help X, that's the creators of Illustrator. And this has HTML or tutorials that will guide me in how to do the thing that I need to do. But the key to not only the help in Illustrator, but also finding the help online is you need to know the right keywords. Okay. So if you have any issues, reach out to me. I really want everybody to at least have somewhat of an understanding of Illustrator. That way it's another tool in your tool belt, and you can say that you know how to work in Illustrator. So I'm going to minimize that, and we're back in Illustrator with our artboard. Let's talk about the tool panel. One thing that's also really cool about Illustrator is that you've got these very short videos, and you can click Learn More to learn more about each of these tools. You've also got hidden under these teeny tiny little triangles. Come on. Okay. Double click the teeny tiny triangle, and then you'll be able to see the hidden tools. Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Okay. Selection tool doesn't have anything hidden. This is our selection tool. This is great for moving objects, for grouping objects, for selecting objects. This is a rock star of a tool, and we use it all the time in Illustrator. Direct selection tool. This one allows you to adjust the anchor points and reshape the paths, which is really, really helpful. You can also delete image traced points and paths with the direct selection tool. This is the pin tool. This creates paths by anchor points. This is the curvature pin tool. This creates points and paths, but at a curve. This is the shape tool. It creates shapes, and you've got rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star, and line segment. This is paintbrush. Paintbrush is awesome. You can create whole compositions, and they're all vectored with the paintbrush tool. You treat it just like a paintbrush. This is the text tool. And if you see the hidden tools, we have type on a path tool, which is super fun, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This is our eraser tool. You literally erase with it. This is our shape builder, so you can take multiple shapes and turn them into one big complex shape. Okay. This is our gradient tool, very similar to Photoshop. And this is our color picker, very similar to Photoshop. This is our zoom tool, and this is our fill and stroke. Okay. So let's make some shapes. So with my rectangle selected, right now I've got a white fill and a black stroke. I'm just going to make a rectangle, and by clicking the fill, I could click any of these swatches, these pre-programmed swatches, or I can click in this this rainbow, and then I can use these sliders to adjust the tones, okay, to get like really interesting colors. These are my gradients, so I could create various gradients. Okay. And then we have, if we just double click our color picker, then we can just click in our colors just like Photoshop. Okay. So we have our pretty fill. With our stroke, we can change the stroke color to, we could go purple, we could do any color we want. I'm going to do something that's a little less hard on my eyes. And then right here, I can adjust my stroke to make it really, really thick or really, really thin. Okay. And then opacity is just like Photoshop. Okay. And now that we have an object in our layer, let's go to the layers panel, and I'll click this arrow, and it'll show me all of the objects that are in that one layer. Let's say I want to create another layer. I'll go down here to my layer icon, my create a new layer icon, and I'll click it. And then I can create another rectangle. We're just going to stick with rectangles for now. I'm going to go hot pink. But what I want to show you is, let's lower the opacity. So I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm going to click on this, this background rectangle, and I'm going to adjust the opacity to 50%. That way we can see what's going on a little bit better. Then I'm going to go to my layers panel, and I'm going to click layer 2, and I'm going to drag it underneath layer 1. Okay, so now I have layer 2 behind layer 1. Okay, so let's raise the opacity because it's going to disappear. Okay, because now it's behind. Just like Photoshop, we have a stacking order. Okay, so that's something to always think about when you're working working in Illustrator. It's going to keep it. Illustrator is going to keep all of your objects on one layer until you create a new layer. Okay. So we've created some shapes. Let's see, what else do I have? Shapes, fill, stroke. So the shape builder. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab an ellipse, and I'm just going to make some circles. Okay. Then I'm going to go to my shape builder. First, I'm going to group them all. So I'm just going to click and drag and create a rectangle to encompass all of the shapes. And then I'm going to grab my shape builder tool, and I'll just draw a line through all of the intersecting lines of these shapes. And now I have a new complex shape. Okay. Another thing I like to use in Illustrator is Illustrator itself is kind of like a big drafting table. You can create artwork out here in the gray area. Let's see, I'm going to shift and make it smaller. I'm going to adjust the color. I've got a cool little cloud, and I'm going to put it in the middle of my composition. So I can work on my images out here and then bring them in. And sometimes that's easier for my brain to understand what's going on. Another thing, right now, if I move these, they're all independent of each other. So I'm going to, with my selection tool, I'm going to click and drag to select all of the shapes. Then I'm going to go over here to my quick actions, and I'm going to click group. So now it's all just one group, okay? And that's really helpful when you're creating compositions. You can group something, you can move it, and then you can simply ungroup it, okay? And then now they're individual shapes again. So that's really helpful. Vectors and pixels, I think we've talked a little bit about this. Because we're working with points and paths, we're creating objects. When we work in Photoshop or in a pixel-based program, we're creating images out of teeny tiny little squares. So when we want to scale up, like for a billboard, those pixelated images can become, the integrity of the images can be destroyed. So it can either get really pixeled, or it can be just like the biggest file of all time. But you really start to see it when you try to make things smaller. Like say you want to make some box art for a chapstick. If you take a pixel-based image and you want to make it really, really small, oftentimes those images will start to diminish because the pixels can only get so small. Okay, so if you're working with a really, really small image and the pixels can only get so small, eventually you're going to wind up with like another image, an image issue. It starts to degrade because the pixels just can't scale down. So vectors, because they are objects, they can. So this very simple image of a cloud framed by these two beautiful rectangles can get massive for a billboard. and it can get teeny tiny, including text, teeny, teeny tiny for like chapstick. So that is the beauty of vectors, and it's the same artwork. So I could spend a whole bunch of time on one piece, and then I could scale it down super duper small for some chapstick, and then scale it up, the exact same artwork, scale it up super duper big because I'm going to promote on a billboard. So it's really, really great for that. And oftentimes when you work with like a box art company, they want you to send your file as an Illustrator file for that reason, because it can get really big and really small. What else did we cover? Text. I'm going to just remove all of this, and let's talk about text briefly. So text is just like Photoshop. I'm going to create my lorem ipsum. I've got this floater pop-up right here. You can move it so it's less distracting. I'm going to change my font, or excuse me, my font size, and then I'm going to change my font to Academy Engraved, and then I can type happy birthday. Okay, and it's that easy. It's just like Photoshop. But what I want to show you is typing on a path. So I'm going to create an ellipse. That's my path. I have to establish a path first. Then hidden under my text tool is type on a path tool. And I'll hover that until I see this barely legible fuchsia text that says path. You can barely see it, but it's there. And when you see that fuchsia path that is almost nearly impossible to see, you'll click, and then you're able to type on a path. Okay, and that can be really fun for logos, for anything that taking it out of just a horizontal or vertical layout, you're able to curve it now. So that's really fun. I'm going to grab my selection tool, select everything, and just click delete to remove it. Let's talk about image trace and then the AI generator, and then we're done. Okay. So image trace is one of my favorite elements of Illustrator. And before Illustrator, when I first started graphic art, we would have to take pictures. We would scan pictures. We would put it on a separate layer, and then we would take the pen tool in Photoshop, and we would create paths. And it would take hours to do these compositions. And I really dreaded creating vectors because it took so long. With Illustrator, I can create vectors in like 5 to 30 seconds. So I'm going to go to place. So I'll go to File, Place, and that allows me to access images on my desktop. Let's not do the super complicated picture of the roses. Let's do Ganesha. And you know that it's activated because you see a tiny thumbnail. So I'm just going to click at the edge of the page. And then I'm going to hold down Shift while I click to scale it to my artboard. I'm going to Command Z, because I did not like how Ganesha became, there we go, much better. So we have Ganesha. I could image trace right up here, or I could image trace right here. Okay, so I'm just going to click image trace, and I've got all of these options. I've got high fidelity, low fidelity, 3-color, 6-color, 16-color, shades of gray, black and white, sketched art, silhouettes, line art, and technical drawing. I encourage you to explore all of these. They are super fun. I'm going to click low fidelity color. And what's happening is it's taking the pixels and it's turning it into vectors. Okay, so your image will change slightly. So this is a low fidelity. Let's see what a high fidelity looks like. Okay, just doing its thing. Okay, this looks almost exactly like the original image. But if I get really, really close, you can see that all of these colors have been converted into objects, okay? And now this Ganesha, this once pixelated image of Ganesha can now be big enough for a billboard and small enough for a chapstick without any sort of image degradation, which is so cool. You can also click this icon right here and go to this pop-up, and then you're able to also find these presets, but you're also able to create color accuracy. So if I were to lower my colors, it always has to work. You always have to give it a minute. It takes just a teeny bit of time. Then I can increase my colors. So right now there's 79 colors. I'm just waiting for it to work. Okay. And this is a great way to make all like nearly photorealistic imagery in Illustrator. It will be slightly different because you are converting pixels into objects, but it's very minimal. The next thing I want to show you is expand. So let's say I want to isolate Ganesha from my background. So what I need to do is I need to click expand. And what that does is it allows me to see all of the points and paths. I'm going to go up to my direct selection tool, and then it gets really, it becomes this giant blue mass. So I'm just going to click anywhere outside of the artboard. Okay. And now it feels back to normal. But I'm now able to click, let's get a little closer so you can see it better. I'm now able to click and delete, okay? And if I hold down Shift when I click, I can click multiple sections at once. And then I'll delete, okay? I can also drag. So I'm starting up here, and I'm just creating a rectangle. And then all of the area that the rectangle was touching is now selected. So I'm going to delete that. I'll delete that. And then that's a really effective way of deleting various points and paths within your image trace. I could also grab my eraser and erase. Okay. But for these more detailed areas where the eraser would be kind of difficult, that's where I can grab my direct selection tool and I can just clean all that up. Okay, and you might have to click twice to really get it to work. Okay. Okay, so we've talked about shapes, we've talked about shape builder, selection, direct selection, vectors, pixels, text, type on a path, image trace, expand, direct selection, and erase. Let's talk about the AI generator and then we will be done. And again, if you want to set up a time to have like a 15 or 30 minute Zoom meeting with me, my schedule is fairly flexible during the week. So just reach out, let's set up a time that works for both of our schedules, and I'm happy to tutor you on Illustrator if you want to learn a little bit more with me, because as an artist, I work better with somebody guiding me than using just tutorials. So do not hesitate to reach out. I am totally here to help you. I love Illustrator and I'm happy to teach you. So don't hesitate to reach out if you want. So let's finally talk about AI image generator. I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm just going to click and select all of Ganesha and delete. And I'm ready for my AI generator. So I can only access my AI generator through the selection tool. And I'm just going to click Generate Vectors Beta. Okay. And now I have prompt inspirations here I could start with. But I am going to keep it consistent with the demo today, with cat eating spaghetti. Okay. And then I'm going to click create, and I should have created a rectangle to first define the size of my generated graphics, but that's okay. Okay, and now I have a cute cat eating spaghetti. I have different variations of the cat eating spaghetti, and it seems like every time I prompt cat eating spaghetti, I get a slight variation of a cat eating spaghetti. So your prompts keep playing around with your keywords in your prompts, because you might be able to stumble upon something really adorable like a cat eating spaghetti. The last thing I want to show you is, I'm going to grab my selection tool and just select the cat and delete it. I'm going to create a shape this time. I'm going to grab my rectangle, create my rectangle, and I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to go to Generate Patterns, and I am going to type in cat eating spaghetti. Okay, and then I'm just going to wait for it to happen. And every time I put in these prompts, they're the exact same keywords, I get different images. So now we've got this pattern of cats eating spaghetti, cats eating spaghetti, cats eating spaghetti. Okay, and these are vectors, so they can get really, really big or really, really small. And I know that there's like a conversation going on right now in the art world about AI. And I, as an artist, am not the biggest fan of AI, but I also believe that if we don't embrace new technology, we won't stay current with the trends. So I think if you can either love AI or hate AI, but I think it's important to at least know how to do it. That way, if you're approached in a business scenario where you're asked to generate some AI, you have an idea of how to do it. Okay. But there is a huge conversation right now going on in the art world about, is AI really art? And I think it really depends on the person, depending on the answer. But I do believe that if we don't embrace current technology, then we end up becoming antiquated artists, and we don't want that. So that's how you do it. Take it or leave it. And I think that is it. So with that being said, if you have any questions, please reach out. Again, I am here to help you. And also check out these Learn tutorials. They're awesome. I would start with the shorter ones, and then I would, if I had some free time, I would go into the more a little bit longer ones. But these are a great way to get you comfortable with the app, and also hovering over each tool will show you what they do. Okay. So I really appreciate you guys' time, and I'm here if you need me. Just reach out, and I look forward to seeing your beautiful creations in Illustrator. Thanks, guys, so much for your time. See you in the next one. Bye.